Didn't work. Yes. Good morning. Had a little technical problem. We seem to have fixed that. It's corrected. Now, we tried to put a video on. It didn't come up. This book, Australian Political Treason, Treachery and Sabotage by Dick Yardley. Very knowledgeable person who wrote this book and explains in detail the corruption in this country and how they achieved it. So to Dick, thank you. There has to be out. And this is Harry Talbot Gibbs, and his famous saying is on the back of this book. I therefore have come to the conclusion that the current legal and political system in Australia and its states territories has no basis in law. Sir Harry Talbot Gibbs. This document was compiled from research into factual evidence proving that members of political parties, each under their own party's constitution and policies, have under progressive process committed treason, treachery and sabotage. That's by Dick Yardley, and he's 100% correct. You cannot deny it because it's a fact. Now, I had studied the Constitution for a long, long time, and I've looked at what Dick said. I've read the book and he's correct. I've listened to the video or disc from Larry Hannigan in relation to the voice of the Australian Constitution, and he's correct. It was a very good disc explaining our Constitution. Now, people have said, oh, you keep going back on the same things. Yes, absolutely. And now you want a solution. Absolutely. The solution is here. Right here. The Constitution Act that they put in place in Western Australia. It's a fraud. It has 32 sections missing. It's available to anybody who wants to go on to the sites we give and deal with the issues or look at the issues. I'm not going to send to everybody because if I did, there's thousands now want it. It's available. Have a look on council, whatever, one of our things. What we need to do is look at what we put up. Listen to what we put up. Some people are asking, where do I get the Constitution? Above some of the videos I do is all the links where you can go and get it. This is an act to confer a constitution on the state of Western Australia. Now, this is the correct one, not the lying one put there by political parties with 32 sections missing. So what does that achieve and prove? Western Australia was never lawfully constituted. Why not? Why not? So we go to this constitution. This is the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK as proclaimed and gazetted and put in place on the 1st of January 1901. What does it do? Well, let's have a look. Clause 4, and this is binding clauses. The Commonwealth shall be established, and the Constitution of the Commonwealth shall take effect on and after the day so appointed. But the Parliaments of the several colonies may at any time after the passing of this Act make any such laws to come into operation on the day so appointed, as they might have made if the Constitution had taken effect at the passing of this Act. In other words, they have the power to pass acts that they have authority to pass. Now, we haven't finished with clauses. Just fumbling, but don't worry. This Act and all laws made in Parliament of the Commonwealth under the Constitution shall be binding on the courts, judges and people of every state and of every part of the Commonwealth, notwithstanding anything in the laws of any state, and the laws of the Commonwealth shall be enforced on all British ships, the Queen's ships of war accepted, whose first port of clearance and whose port of destination are in the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth shall mean the Commonwealth of Australia as established under this Act. The state shall mean Such are the colonies in New South Wales, New Zealand, Queensland, Tasmania, Victoria, Western Australia and South Australia, including the Northern Territory of South Australia, as for the time being are parts of the Commonwealth, and such colonies or territories as may be admitted into or established by the Commonwealth as states, and each of the such parts of the Commonwealth shall be called a state. Original states shall mean such states as are parts of the Commonwealth at its establishment. That included all the states when I said, whereas the people of Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, Southern Australia, and Western Australia. And look at that, New Zealand. New Zealand. Are they part of anything? Yes, they're part of New South Wales. I don't care what you've got to say, that's correct. Now, they are established and draw their authority referentially from the Constitution. How do you know? 107, 108 and 109 states that. The Federal Council of Australia Australasia Act 1885 is hereby repealed, but so as not to affect any laws passed by the Federal Council of Australia and enforced at the establishment of the Commonwealth. Any such laws may be repealed as to any state by the Parliament of the Commonwealth, or as to any colony not being a state by the Parliament thereof. Section 51, subsection 38 of the Constitution, in the annotated version, explains clearly what this section means. It took out everything because the colonies came out under the boundaries, under the Constitution. They were taken right out, along with the Australasian Act and the Federal Council of Australia. What remained? There were only 7 legislative areas, even exercisable by the Australasian Council and even less by the colony. And all 7 are contained in Section 51 of the Constitution. So look at local government and all that, that's all gone. There's no control over land whatsoever, or water or anything else. Doesn't give the federal parliament control over any of it. Only certain things, and that's the legislative authority of the federal parliament. And it's Clause 8. After passing of this Act, the Colonial Boundaries Act 1895 shall not apply to any colony which becomes a state of the Commonwealth, but the Commonwealth shall be taken to be a self-governing colony for the purposes of that Act. Then it says the Constitution of the Commonwealth shall be as follows. I'm not going into all of that. What the important thing is, after passing of this Act, it was passed on the 9th of July 1900. It came into effect on the 1st of January 1901. So after passing this Act, the Colonial Boundaries Act 1895 shall not apply to any colony which becomes a state. Western Australia was included in that, so was New Zealand. Whether you like it or not, all the states were included. So the Boundaries Act doesn't apply to any of them. So what then does apply? The Constitution itself, and the Constitution of the states. Why? Because they're a letters patent. This is the one for Western Australia. This has boundaries, electoral districts. It's here, right here. I'm just looking at it here. Now, are they still there? No, they're gone. Those electoral boundaries have gone. Can you put them back in there? No, not without permission. Did you ask it? No. Did you have it? No. Now, what came into being along with this Act around the same time, this was reserved 29th of April 1889, Royal Assent proclaimed 21st of October 1890. Reserved the 13th of August 1889, Royal Assent proclaimed 26th of June 1890. An act to consolidate and amend the law relating to elections to the legislature. And it contains, this act shall apply to elections to the now subsisting Legislative Council and to any legislative body or bodies hereinafter to be constituted. Now this Constitution allows this act to continue without interference. So now we have a problem, because every single politician in this country is sitting in blatant treason. Why? Not because I say so, because the law says so. The provisions of this Act referring to the Queen shall extend to Her Majesty's heirs and successors in the sovereignty of the United Kingdom. That's pretty clear. Doesn't say the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland or anything else. Great Britain and Northern Ireland's up the top. And it says the whole lot is in here. I'm not arguing that, but what I am stating, and clearly stating, is we were established as a self-governing colony of England. The Colonial Laws Validity Act applies. So, this Act applies, and it applies to other legislative bodies. So in Western Australia, when you created the Constitution Alteration Act 1899, where was the authority? Did you gain the authority under Section 51 of the Constitution or any part of this Constitution? No. What does that cause as far as a problem comes? It creates the biggest problem has ever been inflicted on this country, and the political parties knew it. You look at decisions of the High Court. Did the judges that were appointed fully understand and comprehend the contents of this? I can tell you now, no. They wouldn't have deliberately produced this and turned around and gone back on it. If they did, they would be traitors. But, so let's go to what took place. Western Australia never completed its responsibilities under the provisions of 106 of the Constitution. So, rather than get people say, oh, what does it say? What does it say? 106 is pretty clear. It's very clear, in fact. The Constitution of each state of the Commonwealth shall subject to this Constitution, continue as at the establishment of the Commonwealth, or as at the admission or establishment of the state, as the case may be, until altered in accordance with the Constitution of the state. Now, they're saying, oh, the states have the power to change their constitution. No, they don't. It was never granted by the state constitution. It was never granted by this, which it's subject to. So unless you have the power to change, remove or alter the state constitutions, you've got nothing. Do you have the power to overturn the provisions of state constitutions in relation to Boundaries Act and anything else? Remove the Colonial Laws Validity Act, remove the Crown, change the status of Australia to a self-governing independent nation? No, none of that is granted. If it's not granted, it's denied. Does it remain with the people? That part, no, because this was made letters patent on the 29th of October 1900, along with the state constitution. So the power of changing and alteration, interfering with it, is bound to imperial law. Only the monarch can interfere with the letters patent, nobody else can. So basically, what the Constitution provides, not me, the Constitution, the Commonwealth Constitution establishes the states under 107, 108 and 109. People use 109 to knock out some of the laws. If they apply, good, because that's exactly what it does. Now, if there's no boundaries, I took the case to the court. Madison King has said to a friend, I lost the case as I would put the same thing to the court. Yes, I did, because the Boundaries Act no longer applies. You can't have a boundary. There are no electoral boundaries. Can the Parliament change that? No. If this says there's no electoral boundaries, and it does, there's no boundaries, they can't put one in place. Somehow the political parties say, oh, I can create because it says until the Parliament otherwise provides. No, no. The Parliament cannot provide, nor can the Constitution provide a method of alteration or change except under the provisions of 128. Is that clear? Is it? Are you going to listen this time? Are you going to comprehend? They can't have electoral boundaries. What made the election up front unlawful? Two things. The governor, according to this Act, imperial law, the governor of each state, based on the Constitution, on this, which complies. This continues subject to this. So wherein this says that anybody else, the political parties or anyone else, can select the candidates, it doesn't. So this applies. And if there's no, the state constitution has been unlawfully put there, this was not removed. It still applies. Does the state constitution still apply? Absolutely. In its original form, not in the form modified with 32 sections missing. What I've said, in short, is there are no lawful states because August 1902 New South Wales removed its. And I showed where they've referred back to it with authority, which doesn't exist, to produce magistrates as judges. It's in there, it says that. But after August 1902, what did New South Wales do? It received a law, purported law, from the federal parliament to establish the seat of government and remove 100 square miles of area from New South Wales. The Constitution says it, their Act tries to say it, but 123 puts down the conditions of how it can be done. So, did it comply with the conditions? I'll look that up, just so you know. I'll back this up with actual particular parts, because you think you can do what you like. The Parliament of the Commonwealth may, and that's what they did, with the consent of the Parliament of a state. Did they get that? No, because they didn't have a state. And approval of the majority of the electors of the state voting upon the question. Increase, diminish, or otherwise alter the limits of the state. Now that is the deciding part of 123. You can say what you like. You can lie, cheat, steal, mislead, deceive the people. That's okay, except it's treason. The Parliament of the Commonwealth may, it applied, according to them, with the consent of the Parliament of a state and the approval of the majority of the electors of the state voting upon the question, increase, diminish, or otherwise alter the limits of the state. They couldn't, because there was no state. When did it disappear? In August 1902, when they removed their state constitution, they removed their only authority to have a parliament. So how did the Parliament of New South Wales, which didn't exist, accept the law, purported law, from the Commonwealth, which did not exist? How do we know it didn't exist? Comprehend this. Western Australia never put its lawful constitution in place to comply with 106. New South Wales removed its constitution in August 1902 and replaced it. That didn't exist. So now you've got two. So in 1909, when the Commonwealth, which didn't exist, because they can't, because you've only got 4 states then to lawfully hold the Commonwealth in place, if it was established, but it never was. Couldn't, because there was only 5 of the 6 required at Federation. That's clear. Very, very clear. Yes, I have a duty to report a crime. That's exactly what I'm doing to the people of this country. Reporting a crime. 1922, Queensland removed its upper house. That just added to the demise of the entity known as the Commonwealth Parliament. It just added to it. Why? Because you then only had 3 states. Then 1934, South Australia and Tasmania removed theirs. You ended up with 1 state to create the federal parliament or hold it in position. Didn't exist. So no matter what anybody sitting in the federal parliament or so-called federal parliament, I believe that this has been a fraud against not only the founders of the Constitution, the people of the Commonwealth, and the people of the states, but blatant treason against the Crown of England. Blatant treason. Why? Because you breached your oath of allegiance owed to the monarch. You owed to the monarch, whether it was male or female, is irrelevant to the fact you have an oath of allegiance to them. Oh, they put out the political parties. Oh, we become an independent sovereign nation at federation. No, we did not. We become a self-governing colony of England under Clause 8. This is fact. This is fact. This is not your political party claptrap. Yes, it is what I keep putting to them because it's the truth. How many times do I have to complete it? As many times as it takes to get the morons who sit in our courts, in our parliament, and the lawyers, the police, the federal police, the military forces, and the public service to comprehend the fact if they do nothing about what I'm saying, they're committing blatant treason. Oh, we've done this to the treason. No matter what you did, you couldn't touch it. You could not touch treason. You could not touch corruption, fraud, treachery. Go to Halsbury's Laws of England, Volume 2, around Section 284, before and after. You've committed treason on the Crown of England. The penalties are there. The penalties for what you're doing. Somebody put, don't worry about what particular senators did. They all have misled you, betrayed you, and lied to you, and all are currently sitting in blatant treason. So the reasons I'm telling you, there is no lawful federal parliament. There has never been a lawful federal election. Why? To start off with, this had to be in place along with all the other state constitutions in their original form. Not this piece of junk with 32 sections missing. These 2 things blocked federation. Did they block the establishment of it? No. They blocked the completing of it. So what does that mean to us? The election, or purported election in Western Australia, couldn't happen. They're not even operating under either state constitution, because look what they did on the 1st of January 2004. They created an entity known as the states, unknown to the Constitution, because it removed the Crown and changed everything under the provisions of that Act. Made lawyers officers of the court in direct contravention of imperial law. Contravention? In direct contravention of the Constitution as well. The oath of allegiance is to the bar. If you serve anywhere in the Commonwealth under 1 William and Mary, which is imperial law binding under the provisions of Clause 5, you must swear the oath contained in the Constitution. Where are they? Where is it? Oh, the last election, I watched it. I waited for the ABC, Australian Bulldust Club. And that's all they are. Liars and frauds. I waited for them when they were filming the oath to be taken by so-called politicians. Now you sit there and you look at and listen to what I'm saying. Suddenly, when it came up to taking the oath by Kiefel, emergency switch, breaking news. Oh, look at the book by this moron. Who cares about the book? One of the most important things in this country is the fact that our politicians coming in, if they were, which they weren't because they weren't even lawfully elected, but let's say they just were, have a look at it. What were they required to do? Section 42 says every senator and every member of the House of Representatives, before taking their seat, must swear the oath contained in the Constitution. Every means without exception. Did they do it? No. We have some Muslim lady swearing on the Quran. Treason. Did she commit it? No, she was given that and told she could do it. No, she can't. So what effect did that have? Nothing she did after that had any validity in law. Nothing. Nothing. How did the treasonous political parties overcome what I'm saying? Simply, they created the Australia Act with the view that Australia was an independent sovereign nation, but it wasn't. And Toomey teaches the Parliament is supreme. Liar. Sovereign. Liar. If you read both the green and the red book, you would know what I'm saying clearly states that they are liars. And if you repeat that, and you read those books, and you understand it according to you, then you're a liar. How do I know? Page 676 says clearly that you're a liar. It says, halfway down the page, the Constitution is above both houses of Parliament and they must comply. Clear? Yes. Why aren't they complying? Because you said they're above it. Down the bottom of the page it says Parliament is not supreme. The very essence of federation is that that must be so. Another lie. You said they are. They're not. They're subject to the law like everybody else. Who says that? The Constitution. Go to page 791. Neither the federal nor the state parliament are sovereign bodies. They're only legislatures. So that takes out your cabinets that you call, and then your ability as a state parliament, which is a legislature, to call itself a government and put legislation together. So you lied about that. Another act of treason. Another act of treason, not singularly, because you keep doing this. You keep lying. As I told a guy the other day, you keep lying about me, I'll keep telling the truth about you. The truth is, you don't have any rights. Not one politician. You only have the ability to do one thing. In law, Joe Blow, without lawful excuse, did so-and-so. So every politician put their name in place of Joe Blow. You now have no lawful excuse. I'm revealing the treason, the treachery. Everything you've done is now open in the public arena. So what am I saying? I'm an officer of the Crown. I have every lawful right, but I have above that a duty to reveal indictable offences. Every single politician who does not get elected under the provisions of the Constitution or the Act which allows those provisions to be carried out is sitting in treason. Every politician who belongs to a political party is sitting in treason. Every one. I'm not going to name you yet. I don't have to. Because as a collective, you have been behind the election process. You are guilty of all the criminal offences, which is treason, fraud, lies, and treachery to overturn the Constitution. There's another one. Look at that. Every single one of yous must swear the oath of allegiance. None of yous have. Cullerton took the oath of allegiance in Badgingarra when I went to run for the Senate to see how the system worked, because you couldn't get anything on it. Because somehow, if you want to become a senator, if you get elected, you go to a school or a lecture or whatever just to produce your trains of thought. Cullerton, when he was in Parliament, did the right thing. He now knows you cannot register a company as a political party, as a company, and then sit in our Parliament. If he goes in, he commits treason. I'm revealing it. You've got one chance and one chance only to step out and never go back. You can never go back. None of yous. So, by what you did, Albanese, and the Federal Labor Party, pretending to be a government, brought in 1.2, 1.4, whatever, a huge number, over 1 million immigrants. They then had to comply with the Constitution. They had to be naturalised, not made citizens under your Bulldust Act, which in 1973 you backdated the Immigration Act to 1948. There's no Immigration Act if it doesn't comply with Section 51 of the Constitution on immigration and immigration. And that Act did not. After you fiddled with it, it never could. Everybody was sworn in and naturalised as a subject of the monarch. You took that out. Why? So you could pervert and bend and twist the laws of this country to create what you wanted. A republic. You've lied, you've cheated, you've pretended to put laws in place. Bob Hawke went to the Aboriginals, fed them all this bulldust, lied. It doesn't matter who proposed the law. If you propose a law saying you're going to have the same rights as us, and you put it to a referendum, and the people, 90.2% of the people in this country voted to give you exactly the same rights as us, so everything would be equal. So those two clowns that come on my thing and had their own little version of what should have, you're wrong. I cannot be repatriated to England because I didn't come from there. I came from Mount Lawley, where I was born, inside the Commonwealth of Australia, and I became sovereign, supreme, a subject of Her Majesty, a native, and indigenous to this country. Was I one of the first inhabitants? No. Were the natives that were here when the white men came? No, you weren't either. So you are assuming you're sovereign nations. That statement is a lie, it's a fraud. It comes from what I term the Aboriginal machine, put there by the corporations. And neither of you, Kangaroo Jack and Billingsworth or whatever your name is, who cares what it is, both of you are not 100% Aboriginal. Both of you are not 50%. You want to claim to be? Do a DNA test and see what percentage you actually are. Because the state constitution covers yous up to 50%. Commonwealth 1. But guess what? This place was claimed in 1605 by Pedro the Portuguese as a great southland of the Holy Spirit. Its original name was Beulah Land. It was attached to Ethiopia. Like it or lump it, the Earth's plates move. It's evident, and over the last 3,000 or 4,000 years, Australia moved away from Ethiopia, but it was part of it. That's why there's kangaroos in some of the drawings by the Egyptians. They were on this area of land before anybody else. You can say what you like, but you have no evidence to prove otherwise. You couldn't do the hieroglyphics. You couldn't build the buildings. You couldn't farm. You couldn't do the things, build the pyramids. You couldn't do that whatever it is you say allows you to determine weather and everything else. You couldn't do it. When white men came here, you sit there and you say, oh, we're wrong. If I say something, I'm wrong. I'm not. So let's go to what needs to be done. You can't go to court. We don't have any lawful courts. We don't have a Governor-General. We don't have any governors of the states. As I said, until every state constitution is put back in place, you have nothing. Why? Go to page 286 in the annotated constitution. O'Connor said to the convention, if it was asked of a politician what is the highest authority in government in this country, he would say the state constitutions. Why? Because they're imperial acts. They were already applied to the colonies. How do we know that? An act to confer a constitution on Western Australia and to grant a civil leave. This is to one of Her Majesty's colonies. 106 puts that in place in law. Then he says that leads near the truth but doesn't quite reach it. For the supreme, absolute and uncontrollable authority remains with who? You, me, and everybody in this country who is lawfully here. That's who it applies to. We were born here, we're lawfully here. Do the sins of other people apply to us? No. If that's what you're trying to say, then you're a clown. If you had all this authority, and if you were doing the right thing, how come when Gough Whitlam said, we'll introduce Aboriginal law in this country, the resounding sound was no. We don't want it. Of course you don't want it. Is it brutal? Yes. Is it decisive? Yes. Can you come back and tell me lies? No. Have you got a right of appeal? No, you don't. Aboriginal law is decided by Aboriginal elders. Do I consider it barbaric to my way of thinking? Yes. I've seen what happens when a man from one tribe or another area of the tribe sleeps with a woman on another, or the same tribe, whichever. Everything is removed, cut off. How do I know? Because I attended for a sudden death where we have to check bodies, take them to the morgue, make sure there's no bruises or anything else. And the young bloke with me said, it's a woman. I said, no, it's not. How do you know? Simple. See all those scars from the burns? They cauterized the body of that person before they after they cut everything off, obviously after. Did he pay the punishment? Absolutely. Could he still live? Absolutely. What did he die of? Eventually alcoholism and a heart attack. He didn't die from what they did, but he couldn't carry out what he did. Is that the same law in everyone? No. Don't tell me it is. The laws are different in each of your little tribes, because they were not sovereign nations. That is just a made-up thing that you knew nothing about sovereignty and nations before white men taught you the English language and everything else. In accordance with our Constitution, you had a choice whether you wanted to follow the Church of England or Catholic or whatever other religion, and you made those choices. The stolen generation, I went to school. I lived at 131 Radium Street, Welshpool, Perth, Western Australia. And I went to school with the kids from the little mission there, where they housed all these kids, supposedly kidnapped, dragged off the thing. I'm not saying it didn't happen, because I know for a fact the Catholic Church took a lot of kids and put them in their orphanages because they got money. It's just about money. I'm not condemning Catholics. You didn't know what was going on. You weren't there when it took place. Now, the little community near us was Sister Kate's home. And I've seen some of the things said by different people, how they were treated. I went there. If I didn't have a house to live in, I'd love to live in there. They had someone to look after them. They had food. They had water. They had warm beds. They had warm clothes. Did they get that on the communities then? No, they didn't. Whose fault was that? All these people that were sovereign nations. It was your fault. Did you know about all these things? No. Did you know you could have clothes like white men? No. Did you know you could have white men's food, live in houses built by white men? No. Did you have cars built by white men, trucks, utilities, tractors and everything else you needed to do the things you claim you already were doing? No. So the truth must come out. White men coming here added to this country. Some of them were brutal, I get that. Some of the retaliation was brutal. I wasn't here. I didn't do it. Would I have handled it different? Absolutely. Especially nowadays. But then I would have been subject to the available stuff to defend myself. And would have. And my family. You need to wake up. Every single politician has taken everything that was fought for on both sides. The joining together of this nation as one commonwealth, indissoluble, under a constitution, as an independent colony of England. Not sovereign nation. None of yous are a sovereign nation. When we joined together as a commonwealth, we joined together through federation as the first established, with records, sovereign nation called the Commonwealth of Australia. You say anything else, doesn't matter what you say, it's a lie. You have no records because there are none. I can remember back when I was 20 months old, and I can tell you where we lived and draw a picture of the house we lived in. Because I got an incredible memory gifted to me by God. So have a lot of yous. I've lived with, I've been to church with, I've been to school with native people and learnt from them. When I worked in Meekatharra, I worked with an absolute fantastic guy named Graham Arkham and his wife who sung in the Meekatharra pub. Brilliant guy. I went to bat with them to get them, being Aboriginal aides, exactly the same money as us because they did the same work. I'm not asking for accolades. I've never received 1 cent in what I'm doing. I haven't been paid to lecture. I've been given donations to pay for my expenses. They just cover them. Sometimes they don't. Who cares? I would pay a lot myself if I had the wherewithal to do it, but I don't. I've dedicated my life, most of it, apart from my 2 previous families, to this country. But even while in the other families, as a police officer, I dedicated my life not only to white people and their so-called laws, but mainly to native people, immigrants, young kids who understood, you touch my car, I want to kill you, I have that attitude. You can sit down with them and work it out and fix it. Now get back to the subject matter, and it's the one I'm going to finish on. Every single politician, every single judge, every single employee of any part of the public service, whether you be police, any of the so-called companies, you're not, you belong to us. If you're the public service, you serve the public. If you are a member of the House of Representatives, you represent the people. If you are a member of the Senate, you represent the people. Legislative Assembly, Legislative Council at the state level, you represent us. When have you ever done it? Never. As you say, mate, there's only one race on this earth, humans. We're all humans. I've seen you cut in halves. No matter what colour you are, you all bleed the same colour. The internal organs are all the same. I've been to an autopsy, seen that. Never seen that? Yes, it's disheartening. Yes, you don't want to see it. Yes, you've got a duty to do it. You take that on. I took it on for 17 years till I had an accident. I have never had a more rewarding job than to serve the people of this country. But I served it knowing full well from the time I got there till the time I finished, I was a lawfully sworn officer of the Crown. I was lawfully sworn in 1965 when I was 17 years old. I was lawfully sworn. I hold to that. I hold to the responsibilities of that. When I was sworn as a Commonwealth public official, lawfully, on the 16th of January 2012, I accepted all the responsibilities that goes with it, including what I'm doing now. There is no lawful state parliaments. I'm accusing you, and I know the consequences of that. You wish to sue me for this, go for it. Give it your best shot. Every single one of you politicians in parties are traitors. If you're independent and you haven't been selected according to the law which states you must be selected in a particular way, this one, you are traitors. So you now have a problem. So every judge, every magistrate, every single public servant who operates in the courts, the registrars, the whole lot, I'm not attacking you, I'm stating a fact. Every police officer, whether it's state or Commonwealth, because you're not federal, that doesn't exist, every fisheries officer, every inspector, every member of these so-called shire councils are required to swear the oath in the Constitution before taking your oath of office. 1 William and Mary, imperial law, you can't change it. It's there. It's law in this country under the Colonial Laws Validity Act. There's your answer. Now what I'm telling you, and you better listen to, you're all traitors. Now it takes in a vast number of people who finance these people. You are now all attainted of treason. We don't have any lawful parliaments. We don't have any. All the corporations formed to control this country, whether they be Aboriginal ones, corporate ones, foreign ones, are committing treason. You're attainted of treason under Section 44 of our Constitution. The particular way of voting is blatant treason. You can only vote for one person once under Section 8 for the Senate, one person once for the House of Representatives. No act of Parliament can change that. Otherwise you'd have the ability to change the Constitution. You don't have the ability to alter it. But you didn't do it. To do it lawfully you had to come to us. We are sovereign and we are supreme. Anne Toomey told a lie when she said the Parliament's above the Constitution. The Prime Minister's above the High Court. All of that is nonsensical, treasonous garbage. Comprehend what I'm saying. You are now all attainted of treason. You sitting in our parliaments, whether it's state or federal level, sitting in the councils that you claim to have authority over our land. Child Welfare Department, Police Department, Fisheries Department, Main Roads Department. Every single one of yous, if you have not sworn the lawful oath in our Constitution, are sitting in treason. You say you've sold off all the public entities that belong to us. You never owned them. You weren't sovereign and supreme. You had no authority whatsoever to take control of them. And to sell them, you stole them. No one can profit from a crime. But you stole them off the people. If you're serving the people, how did you do that without committing blatant treason? You see, all people need to do now is stand up and go and tell the things that call themselves politicians, get out of our parliament. Can the police stop you? They are committing treason if they come anywhere near you because they're public officers. They are not officers of the Crown. They are pretending, they are impersonating officers of the Crown. You cannot be a public officer and be an officer of the Crown. You can't. Not possible. So every single thing you are doing is treason, it's fraud, it's treachery. And you're waging war on the Crown. You now have a huge big problem. You cannot do anything. You cannot sit in our parliament. You cannot get sworn in. Nothing you do has any authority. So now you have to deal with the fact, I'm not saying you're going to be held and put to trial. But until you do, you cannot sit in the parliament. You sit in treason. So nothing you do is lawful. So you have a very lovely day thinking there is no lawful state parliaments. There are no lawful police. There are no lawful anybody in the public service. There are no lawful courts. The separation of powers between the Parliament and the High Court is bridged by a 1979 Act. It's invalid. So was the High Court. But not one single federal parliament since federation has ever been lawful. So nothing you've ever passed is valid. The law says so. Our law. Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK. This one says you're nothing but a bunch of traitors. Where is the remedy? Those in treason are elected by those who have no care factor. They have huge care factor. No idea, no intention. You know, that is such a negative statement. Where's the remedy? What are you going to do? And I'm not attacking you, I'm saying to everybody, what are you as one part of the Commonwealth, one part of the 27 million, what are you going to do to front up to these political parties, walk in there civilly, and say to them, why are you here without swearing the lawful oath? Aren't you here to serve the people? Lawful questions, directly taken from our Constitution. Oh, you won't find the questions in the Constitution. No, you won't. But we have the right to ask, if you're a representative of the people, how are you representing us? If you're in our Senate, how come you haven't put the checks and balances on laws and made sure they comply with the Constitution by the authority granted? Because if it isn't granted by the Constitution, it doesn't exist. Page 346 says, not all enactments of the Parliament are valid, only those passed pursuant to, in accordance with, and under the authority granted by the Constitution, and those laws only are binding on the courts, judges, and the people of every state. All other laws are void. If a law, and you can access the lot, doesn't comply with our Constitution, it does not exist in law. It is just a lie. Just a lie. That's all it is. Now, based on that, you don't have to do any more than all turn up. It's no good saying, I've got to go to work. You haven't realised they took your land off you. They take everything you have ever worked for. Robert Bryant, how do we change that? Listen to what I'm saying. Go to your politician and ask them the question. You have every right to approach them and find out what they're doing. Ask how they're representing us. Ask how they're dealing with, the party politics. We're not interested in that. Not interested in any of it. We do not need to know if they're abiding by the laws. We just have to ask them, how are you representing us? You cannot do it with a political party. You cannot do it. What I've stated, I've given you every bit that you need to go in there and exercise your rights. Do I think the voting was done lawfully? No. The figures don't own up? No. Albanese wanted more votes, so he went to the Muslim community and says, I'll finance all your schools. Went to the Hindus or whatever, Indian community, and said, I'll finance your schools. He brought in all these immigrants, said, vote for Labor, we'll give you all these things, and they did. So these people are laughing in our face, where Albanese and political parties, all of them, because none of them did anything about it, none of them, and they know it's going on, not one of them objected to our tax money being used as a bribe. What does that mean to you? Another act of treason by people who are serving us. When did we give permission for somebody to finance a private school? We didn't. You want to run a school, you run it under the provisions of our Constitution, where the money to run it comes from the federal parliament, not to private schools. You want to put your kids in private school for more money? You're electors too. Your money is being put into a school so you can see your kids. You want to take them out of that school and put them there. You pay for it. Yes, and above everything, put our Constitution and all imperial laws that are binding on this country back into our schools and teach it correctly. If you want somebody to help you interpret, I'll give you a hand. Do I know everything? I'm never saying that. No, Mark Dunlap, we did not lose our rights. We gave them up because we did nothing about it. We did not give it up when they listed us as collateral for national loans for banks. No, we didn't give up anything. They did not represent us when they did that. So we gave up nothing. People are running around saying, Australia signed this, Australia signed that, Australia signed nothing. Lying, thieving companies called political parties signed it. Did they have the authority? No. No one can profit from a crime. That is a serious crime. Treachery to overturn the Constitution. Back to Halsey's Laws of England. Don't worry about any so-called acts. Even the 1918 Election Act, it's invalid. Passed by the Federal Parliament that didn't exist. Liz Stanton, they run nothing under the provisions of the Constitution. You're just admitting that they are doing nothing. Now, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to go? Steve Diamond never voted, Liz Stanton says. Well, fine. You gave away your vote, but your vote was worth nothing. I asked people to vote a specific way because, and I knew that they had forms because I filled out one before and it got nothing. Everything I put as a reason why I couldn't vote, they deleted off. When you put I, Wayne Kenneth of the Family Glue, attended at your polling booth on this date to vote, there's your intention to vote. Whether it's lawful or not is irrelevant then. There were no lawful candidates. There's only a question of law now that can be asked that they have to answer because they're registered companies. Why not? Are you a registered company? Yes. Are you being paid by our tax dollars? Yes. How come you didn't have candidates that complied with our Constitution? Now you can see why I asked the lawful question of why not? Why didn't you have lawful candidates put there by imperial law? Why didn't you do it? Because you didn't know. Why didn't they comply? Because they didn't know. The ability for the government to use immigration as a tool shouldn't be possible. No, it's corrupt from one end to the other. Anyway, I've got nothing more to say on it. The whole election didn't exist. They weren't elected. It was lies and fraud. And nobody can change it. They are traitors. Ellery will jail very soon. and all who helped him. No, every single politician, everybody who has failed to comply with the Constitution is guilty of treason. Don't take anything away from what I'm saying. If you did not comply with the Constitution, which authorises your election, you're a traitor. You are now all attainted of treason. The whole lot. It's all is null and void. Lorraine Wood, you're 100% correct. It's all null and void. You now have to get off your fat backside, stop watching footy, drinking your grog, smoking your fag, whatever you do. If you don't like it, tough. This is a fact. Go down to your local member's office, hand them a letter, or just say, ask them the question, what are you going to do? And I want the truth, not your political crap. What are you going to do to represent us? What are you going to do to represent us? If you are doing nothing or following your stupid rules, regulations and ideals, you're committing treason. If you can't answer to the people who pay you, then get out of where you are. Get out. We don't want you. So think long and hard on what I've just said, because it is the only way to end the treason in this country. No one can raise or use the money or go to a lawful court to overturn this crap. But you, by forcing them, stop doing what they want. You don't have to speed down the highway, park illegally, do all sorts of stupid things. Try abiding by rules. They're good for our society. Not lawful, but at this stage, better than the crap that we've got now. Stop inciting them. Why? Oh, I don't blow in the bag because I don't have to. No, you don't. Do you have to commit to a drug test? No, you don't. But why would you start an argument over a minor thing could cost you your land? Because all they do is blow it out of proportion, take everything you got. Why would you do that? If you do, you're definitely silly. All I've got to say is there's only one way to deal with them. Deny them the authority they're claiming. Albanese, get all the Chinese out of this country. They can't own land, they can't own anything. Get every person here that you think owns something in this country and hasn't complied with our law. That's the lock. Everything that has ever transpired is lies and fraud. G'day, Lynn Zeller. Thank you. I've got nothing more to say. Stop asking me what you can do about it. Get off your backside and go and wipe it out. Stop it. Deny them the authority they demand. They have got none. They are now traitors. They can't even sit in our parliament according to section 44 of the Constitution. Learn your law and apply it. Don't come whinging to me if you don't get what you want. I've given you the only way to deal with them. Deal with it. You can. I know you can. I know the guts of the Australian people is better than what they're displaying. All I'm asking you is not to recognise their authority. Send them a letter if you want. Tell them, drop dead. What do you put in the letter? Your words. You do not represent me. And don't pay taxes, don't pay nothing. Am I inviting you to commit an indictable offence? No. Don't pay them what they're not entitled to have. Thank you.